Trauma and Triggers contains explicit content. Please check the show notes for details. That's me. I'm always gearing up to do the wrong thing. Welcome to Trauma and Triggers. I'm Sabrina.
And I'm Audrey.
And today we're talking about something that has a profound impact on both of us, I feel.
Yeah.
Compassion fatigue.
So fun, so good.
It's so fun. We have a really bad habit of not saying what we're talking about, so I'm trying to remember to say what it is we're talking
We
about.
do that. In all fairness, I feel like if our title says what we're talking about, it's on you if it's something different. I don't know.
Yeah, that's I feel like it's almost redundant. It's like
Yeah.
you selected this podcast episode with the title and the description. Why do I have to say again what's happening?
You knew what we were going to say. You knew already. I don't know.
I don't know.
We'll be extra nice and let you guys know now that we started the video, since you guys just deserve it, I guess. I don't know.
I guess we should communicate more. I'm feeling very compassion fatigued today. I just don't give a fuck about anyone's feelings.
I do feel like right now you just have burnout.
Yeah, that is one thing that is on the list somewhere is compassion fatigue versus burned out. But let us describe compassion fatigue for the girlies and the boys and the theys
And the thems.
and the whatever other things you are, the tables out there.
The ketchup bottles.
If I identified as an inanimate object, I would want to identify as uh the malt vinegar bottles at like Five Guys. I just think those are sexy. I just like them.
Really? I don't know what my inanimate object would be. I'm trying to think. Hey, remember those? No, not that. That would be funny, but I really wouldn't want to be those.
um I feel like for you I see Mary Jane shoes as your identity.
Mary Jane shoes? I don't want to
Yeah,
be on anybody's feet.
you can exist outside of, being on
Oh,
someone's feet.
trophy shoes?
Yeah.
I could be trophy shoes. That's not a terrible life
Hell
to
yeah.
have.
Hell yeah. Okay, what are we talking about? Compassion
Compassion
fatigue.
fatigue.
And what it is. And what it is a term. And the term describes the physical, emotional, and psychological impact of helping others, often through experiences of stress or trauma. This form of fatigue is sometimes called a secondary stress reaction, secondhand shock, secondary traumatic stress, or vicarious trauma. Compassion fatigue is very interesting. I feel like it's something we instinctually all know is a thing. It's not one of those psychology terms that I feel like people are like, what the fuck is that? I feel like we all understand what this is.
Yeah, like it says it in the name. Like it's not an absolutely crazy concept. I feel like just naturally as a human being, most people would probably experience this. Just like if you've known somebody who's had like a significant amount of trauma and you're trying to help them through it, a friend, a family, blah blah blah. It can be exhausting. Like it's not something that people want to talk about because it sounds mean. Like I'm
Mhm.
tired that you're tired, Like it's like not the funnest thing to say out loud, but it is real. It does happen. Um Helping someone through like extreme emotions like that is a lot to handle and not everybody's equipped for it. and even people who are equipped for it are going to struggle sometimes.
Yeah, I think, the reality of life is even though you enjoy doing something and you love doing it, sometimes you just need breaks from doing it. And it's just life is draining no matter what it is. Initially, compassion fatigue was first like named and studied for hospice workers. And I think most of the studies and the information on it are specifically for like first responders. But I think anybody who is highly empathetic and is kind of the person of their friend group, of their family that takes care of people's emotional needs is going to have this sort of feeling.
Yeah, I agree. I think that like some people are definitely more prone to that kind of role, and it's not fun to be the therapist friend. Like it
No, it's
I
not.
and I'm not saying that I don't like enjoy it. I love to help people. It's my career path. But like it isn't something I would describe as fun, you know?
Yeah, and it can get kind of like when your friends just always expect that from you.
Yeah,
It I think if you're in the therapist friend or like the mom friend zone, your friendships can get very one-sided.
for sure. And there's definitely like some people who have recognized that like that's a place that they have in their friendship, and they learn how to like be more respectful about it. But
Mhm.
there's also a lot of people who just take advantage of it and don't care.
Yeah, like the whole mom friend thing is kind of weird in
It
some
is.
ways.
It is a little weird.
Th- There's a level of like it's hard cuz sometimes people just naturally fill in those roles, but it's like why is your friend your mom, you know?
And why are you hanging out with people that you feel like you have to baby? Like I don't want to be around those friends. I don't want to be around people that make me feel like I constantly have to watch over them. That's not a good time. Like I like to be around mature people who can like handle themselves in a situation.
Yeah, I would say our friendship is really the first friendship where I don't feel like I have to mom friend you.
Yeah, cuz we both do like we're both used to having the same roles in friendships. I feel like we're
Yeah.
both kind of like the usual like typical mom friend or like therapist friend. So we just kind of had that role back and forth with each other. So it feels even and it feels
Yeah.
safe. And it doesn't feel like if either of us are not up for that, we both know and understand that that's the case and it's okay.
There was like a moment in the beginning of our friendship where for me figuring out our dynamic was interesting because I hadn't experienced someone I could just be a gremlin with.
I I do like we've talked about it a little bit cuz like we've talked about how you kind of feel people out for like weirdness. Like you just do weird shit in front of people and see if they'll like catch a vibe or if they'll just look at you funny. And i- it's like it's kind of funny cuz I know that my general reaction to people like doing goofy things cuz I have such like a strong fear of embarrassment. I am the type of person who will look at you crazy. I don't think you're crazy. Like I could not give a fuck what you're doing. It's just I can't embarrass myself. It's a problem I have. I'm working on it, but I can't just be silly and goofy. It's not easy for me. So I
Yeah.
feel like I've probably offended plenty of people in my life just like not knowing how to respond to like other people's crazy actions. Um but I don't know, we worked it out somehow. We do fine.
Yeah.
I think I
It is really interesting that there's like some things about us where it's like, why did this work out so well?
right.
But it just did.
It did. It worked out really well. And I don't know if it's just cuz like you were so comfortable being weird in front of me that I was just like, "Oh, okay." And I was just used to it. And then I started like I was silly and goofy too, and we both just had the same sense of humor. So it just worked out.
I think it's interesting that other people will, like, love bomb and I'll weird bomb.
Let's see what you can handle, bitch.
Yeah. "Oh, you want the truth, the whole truth and nothing but? We'll see about that."
uh no, and like I think that for so long in our friendship, like you were in a like managerial position too. Not that you acted like it, but that was besides the point.
I would like to pause for a second, and I was responsible in my job.
You were.
However, my personality was not one of authority.
Yes, which I love. That's the energy I want. But, I it wasn't the behavior and actions were not giving manager, you know what I mean? Um, but no, and so like I would fuck up on the job and we'd just like laugh our asses off about it. Or like you would fuck up on the job and I'd laugh my ass about it. And we'd also
Yeah,
just be mad at the same times. Like we just had the same emotions and often it felt like we were the only ones experiencing them at the time. So like we
yeah,
just look at each other and be like, "What the fuck is going on?"
yeah. It was like we were Jim and the camera in the office all the time. Just looking at each other, seeing what we were both seeing, like, "Okay." And we're so annoying to be around. We still do this in front of
Oh
people,
yeah.
and I mean, not right now because you live a million years away, but we'll just be around people, judging them in front of them.
No, cuz like I think it was whenever we stopped working together, I moved to a new place and I there was like two friends that worked there that were like above me that had our relationship. And it took me being
Mhm.
around them to be like, oh, this is why people didn't like us. And I was like, it makes sense now. Because I loved these people. I loved watching their relationship. I didn't have any problem with them. They were hilarious and fun to be around. But like from another person's perspective, I can totally see how like easy it is to be left out of a conversation.
Yeah,
Also, I
and it's just like I think we got off topic.
yeah, that's what I was about to say. I was like, Jesus Christ. We've been going for like 10 minutes and we haven't spoken about the topic yet.
This is what happens when we only see each other once a week.
Yeah,
Like, it is what it is.
you guys are just going to have to
Uh,
deal with it at this point.
yeah, buckle in, the content is shifting.
It's just us, no
Okay.
topics.
So so pivoting back to compassion fatigue, I wonder how I will edit this. It's gonna be a mystery to us all. Um, one thing I did kinda wanna talk about was the differences between compassion fatigue and burnout. A lot of the symptoms are the same. Like if you're experiencing burnout, you're might be more irritable, you might have less energy, um, things don't bring you joy anymore. You like to sit in the shower with the lights off and try to cry, but you can't.
Okay.
uh, and yes, that's a highly specific and personal symptom. However,
Huh.
um,
We're doing dabs in the parking lot and crying in the
Just
shower.
do yeah, I live. Uh, you might take your phone into the shower because you can't stand to be alone with your thoughts, and then damage your phone's charging point port to the point that you can't charge your phone, and you buy a wireless charger. Both of these things can happen with compassion fatigue
All of
and
these
with
things can
burnout.
happen at the same time.
Yeah. Um, but I think I I'll posit that I think compassion fatigue is a specific emotional burnout for uh, being compassionate to people. Like, I think burnout is a broader term, and I think compassion fatigue is a specific type of burnout that is for being emotional support for people,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah, and I think that it's definitely like it's hard to disconnect the two when it comes to like um hospitality workers or like people in the hospitality industry, like specifically mental health and like physical care. You know what I mean? I'm trying to think of the
Hmm.
word that's the right one for that, but I don't know. um and because they're like constantly dealing with taking care of people in their mental health or their physical health, and the amount of like shit they get thrown at them, literally and figuratively, it's just crazy. It
Yeah.
I just, you know, you get to have both. You can be both burnt out of your job and have compassion fatigue from taking care of people all the fucking time.
Yeah. I think something that is maybe a bit more different with compassion fatigue is you might like, I think you can be burnt out and still have empathy, but sometimes compassion fatigue gets rid of your empathy because you're just so worn out about it.
Yeah.
Um, like, yeah, it's just a crazy thing. Like, I wish we could just keep running and just keep being compassionate and empathetic towards people, but you have to take time to take care of yourself.
Yeah, it's not possible to just constantly be there for other people and ignore the problems you're having yourself.
I It is possible, but bad things will happen.
Yes.
um it's interesting cuz like in my life I've had, you know, uh friends who are just the highest level of emotionally unstable, suicidal and stuff like that. That like from a young age,
Yeah.
and it's like this also wears you out.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to be a first responder or a hospital worker or anything like that. It's just like if you're surrounded by people constantly needing you, and if you're a person with a higher empathy, like just for me, I have to be careful about the news that I watch because I can feel really like despair and upset and not be able to function
Yeah.
very well.
I spiral and then I won't like get out of bed for the whole day.
Yeah, because it kind of feels like, what's the point?
Yeah. And I think going back to like the friends part of all of it, because like at a young age, I also had the same thing. And I feel like part of that is just like, I don't know, it's a personality type. It takes a certain person to just like gravitate towards mentally ill people. That's, I don't know what it is. I don't know
It's, you
what
know,
Myers Briggs person you gotta be,
yeah.
but it is a thing. Um, and I feel like people run into the issue of like never getting a chance. Like, if they try to say anything about the fact that they're tired of hearing constant like depression and despair and like suicidality, it's there's an immediate backlash of like, oh, you don't care about me, or like, you don't care about that person, or you're a bad person for not wanting to put up with it. And like there was at least one time where I did like have a conversation with one of my friends, and I was like, I'm trying to get into a better place because I can't handle this anymore, and you're not there yet, and I can't like be around you all the time if that's the case. And I felt fucking terrible for it. Like, it doesn't feel good. I don't want to cut people off just because they're like struggling with their mental health, but I am too. And there is a cycle there of just like encouraging each other to just feel like shit all the time. And at some
Hmm.
point that has to like change. I don't know.
It's hard, like, you know, it's hard being very close to people who have very hard mental health struggles. And I have very difficult mental health struggles that I deal with. And part of my thing is like, I know how big the impact is, so I don't reach out for help when I need it
Yeah,
because I know the emotional burden of asking other people to help you.
which isn't healthy,
No, not good,
but at least you go to
bad.
therapy. You do go to
I do go to
therapy.
therapy. it's it's just finding that balance is hard because you want to be there for people, but it's also like it's very stressful when you can't do anything about it. I can't make your mental health any better. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you have to put in the work to do it to some degree. I can be here and support you, but I can't fix this whole thing for you.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I I also just feel like there is a level of, like, some people just don't want the help. Especially, like, you have to reach a certain point before you're like, "I need to fix something in my life so that I'm actually, like, trying to get better." Like, nothing is going to
Mhm.
just, like, fix all of your problems. And support systems are a part of that, but if your one outlet from your support systems is just to dump all of the shit that's going on in your life, what are you doing? Like, that's just on some level that isn't fair.
Yeah.
Well,
Sometimes we start talking about a topic and it turns into something different and I don't mind it. Like I feel like this topic has turned to like the burden of being an empathetic person more than just compassion
you
fatigue.
know, it goes along with compassion fatigue. We're just gonna keep going with it. It's fine. We did some personal experiences a little bit.
Yeah. I did want to read this little thing about just the history
Uh,
of where
we have
the
to include
term comes.
history everywhere. Go ahead,
The thing
yeah,
is, hi-
history buff.
history is everywhere, Audrey. And I just acknowledge it, okay? So this is just a copy and paste from Psychology Today.
Fun fact.
This just that's all this is. Um, but it says the understanding that exposure to the trauma of others could put people at risk has long been understood. Historian Samuel Moyne has said compassion fatigue is as old as compassion. But the term was coined by historian Carla Joynson in 1992 and further defined and researched by psychologist Charles Figley, who described it as a state of exhaustion and dysfunction, biologically, physiologically, and emotionally, as a result of prolonged exposure to compassion stress. Very interesting. Just interesting stuff all around.
Oh,
Um, So the next section is how to avoid compassion fatigue. I gotta tell you, I said this off record, but I'll say it on record. We need to stop saying drink water is the answer to fucking everything. Stop it. Enough is enough.
you know,
Enough is enough.
they just they just think that it's gonna solve everything. You know, they're just worried about your water intake.
Yeah. You Google any sort of mental health thing, you're like, tips to, not have panic attacks as much. Drink water is going to be on the list. And yes, you should drink water and take care of yourself. But it drives me insane sometimes how often I see drink water on fucking everything.
Like
It's so
it
crazy.
has actually just taken over everything. Cuz it's like
Hmm.
I get it. I too think that water is important. But do I think that water will cure my depression, my anxiety, my backache? No. No, I don't.
No, I do not. Thank you so much. And also always on the list is make sure you're getting enough sleep. I'm sorry, I'm having a panic attack every time I go to bed. I'll work on that.
No, seriously, for a while, like I would literally lay down in the dark and I would immediately get a migraine, heart palpitations, and feel like throwing up. Like it wasn't even anxiety. I don't know what was going on with my body, but like I couldn't lay down.
Did you try drinking water?
I would have killed a bitch if they said that to me. If I told them all my symptoms and I went to my doctor and I was like, here's what's wrong. And they were like, maybe you're dehydrated. I'm throwing hands.
I will say I am such a hypocrite because Jack will be like, "Hey, I'm not feeling very well," and I'm like, "Have you had any water today?" It's one of the first. I'll like go through the list and be like, "Have you eaten? Did you get enough sleep?" Okay, I
Yeah.
don't know why I always do that.
Cause
It's
like,
crazy, but 9 times out of 10, that bitch hasn't
that's
had
what I was
any
about to
water that
say. Like,
day.
some people won't, they don't do the normal take care of yourself things. And we are being hypocrites right now. Everybody who's listening that knows us probably will agree. But, you know, that's besides the point. We're the mom friend. What do you expect from us?
Uh, okay. So this was on the WebMD article. I don't know a ton about it, but another thing that people do to avoid compassion fatigue, especially people who are like in some sort of uh, you know, helping people field, will do something called psychic numbing. Um ah, it sounds crazy. It sounds like a Pokemon
It sounds
effect.
like an option when you go see what's uh what's the future people? A psychic?
Yeah, it doesn't sound real. But essentially it's just practicing not giving as much of a fuck.
Essentially, you just learn how to calm down your emotions. At some point, you just got to give them up. You just got to you got to move on.
Yeah. Yeah. I just think that's funny. It's just like, so have you tried not giving a fuck?
I hate that like all of the like avoid or help tips that they have for this are just like all the things that like anybody with mental illness don't want to hear. Like if you walk up to somebody and you're like, I'm so anxious, I'm having panic attacks all the time, and they're like, have you tried not doing that? I swear to God, drink some water, some vitamin D. Maybe you need to
Oh.
sleep more.
Have you had any protein today? Here's a chicken breast. Fuck you. Um, so the only one that I wrote down that has actually helped me with this is engaging with news productively. Like, if I see something that's really upsetting, I'm gonna try and do something about it, and that helps. I also don't engage with the
Yeah.
news a ton, uh, which makes me upset. Like, I wanna be better at, like, knowing what's going on, but it's really overwhelming for me, like, when I hear about all the terrible things,
Yeah.
you know? Um, and what can I do about them all?
I mean, you can't solve world hunger in a day. I don't know.
But I can cry about it and spiral in bed,
I do like
so
the idea of like productive engagement with the news because I haven't. I don't really feel like I've really thought about it that way, but I do think that if I encountered something that upset me and I found a way to like feel like I had done something about it, I would feel better. Um,
Mhm.
but I think with how much negative news we have right now, it's not possible to positively engage with everything you see.
For sure. And like some of that productive engagement is just like reposting it, spreading the word, because I can't donate to everything that's upsetting and terrible. I would have no money. Um, and unfortunately,
We
I
can't
have to
all
have
just be
money. It's
homeless.
terrible, I know. Um, you know,
Now that you think about it,
maybe we could.
who needs them?
Fuck homes. They're constructs.
This is,
um, Something I didn't put on the list, but is pretty obvious is like, you know, take breaks,
yeah, the
blah, blah, blah.
normal self care and mental health, blah.
We have an episode titled Self Care Fuck You
Yeah,
that you
feel
can get more
free
details about
if
that.
you don't know what it is yet.
Feel free
Um,
to. I get
yeah,
fatigued by self care.
we're
I'm
all
over
sick and
it.
tired of the take a bath, bitch. Cause I have to clean my bath first. I have to clean my bath first. I can't just take a bath. So stop telling me to. It's not that simple. When did a shower ever hurt anybody?
When my shower is moldy and gross.
I mean, like, I clean, like, I feel like there's a difference between, like, taking a shower and taking a bath on cleanliness, right? I'm not, like, if I've been showering in my, in my bath for a significant amount of time or any amount of time, I'm gonna want to clean my bath before I get in water that's just been sitting in the tub, you know? How to help someone with compassion fatigue, or how to get help if you do have compassion fatigue. And Sabrina did how to avoid getting it. A lot of the things that you would expect to see on how to avoid it are also the ways to how on how to fix it. Surprise, surprise. It's all the same.
I feel like, have you ever seen the Muppets? Are you familiar with them at all?
Yeah.
There's the two old man Muppets that just complain all the time. I feel like that's us. We're just over it. We're over mental health advice. We all know what we need to be
Have
doing.
you all seen Grace and Frankie?
Let me check with the audience. uh, there's they're saying yes. Okay, yeah, they have seen it. What's up?
Shut the fuck up. You're the only one here, bitch. Answer. I feel like that's us. I'm Grace, you're Frankie.
That's 100% correct. I think we should start a vibrator company.
Right?
I have thoughts about improvements for vibrators.
We're on to something. I will say there's a lot of like sex toy companies now. Like, and they just keep getting more expensive for some reason,
Yeah, you would think all the competition would drive the price down,
right?
you know? It's also like all of the sex toys are made out of silicone, which is not a super expensive material.
I guess it's got metal in it, so now we're worried. I don't know.
I don't know.
There's no reason why like a vibrator should be $250.
Amen.
There's no reason.
You can just get like it won't be as sexy looking, but you can get like a personal massager that's actually meant for massaging, and it will have all the shits and giggles that your $250 vibrator is going to have. Okay? Let's be fucking for real right now. Spray paint it black. No, wait, don't do
Don't. That's a bad
that.
idea.
You don't want spray paint all down on your genitalia.
Anyways, moving on. How to help someone with compassion fatigue or get help if you have it. Um, I'm gonna go with a few of like how to help someone just because I feel like that's something we haven't really talked about yet. I feel like I put this down as a joke. So my number one answer was have compassion. I do feel like it's kind of true. Like I feel like if you just take into account another person's emotion on either side, it's not hard to just be like, "Oh, okay, maybe they need a second." Like, I don't know. I might be crazy. And also, like, there are other people to rely on that you could rely on that you're not relying on. Or if you're just relying on everybody, give them all a break. I don't know. Have a few days alone.
Mhm.
It's just, I think that if you want good responses from people who care about you, you have to take into account how you are affecting them. And if it's a constant thing of like making them feel dumped on, they are not going to
Mhm.
be able to help you in the way that you
For
might
sure.
need it. Something that I feel like me and Sabrina have kind of done where we both just kind of like tell each other everything and whatever is on our mind. If something like really tough has happened, we both kind of like check in with each other before we just say
Mhm.
whatever's on our mind. We'll usually like we don't do it all the time cuz thoughts just come to our head, but we'll typically say like, "Hey, are you available for this? Do you have the emotional capacity to help me deal with it?"
Yeah. We also know each other well enough to know kind of like our individual triggers. So I think we've both sort of checked in with each other to be like, hey, I want to talk about this thing. And I know that's kind of an upsetting topic for you. Are you good to talk about it right now?
Yeah. I just think it makes it easier. At the very least, it shows you're putting effort into like making sure that the person, your person, is helping, like is feeling okay enough to help you. Um,
Yeah. It also, like, for me, gives me a second to sort of mentally prepare, you know? Like, sometimes people will just dump stuff on you with like no warning.
yeah,
So just having that question, can I tell you something that's really been bothering me? It's a little upsetting. It'll be like, okay, I can, put my guard up and stuff like that.
yeah. Moving on to how to get help. Simple, easy tasks. There's only two. Um, See a therapist. Number one. I think that like this is going to be my answer to everything. And like I sound like one of those hydrate assholes, but also like if you're having a mental health issue, see a therapist. That's what they do. It's in the job description. And if you don't have money for that, there are other ways that you can help deal with this, like mental health days, taking breaks from people, taking breaks from like whatever is burning you out. If you have a job, you can probably pay for a therapist. I feel like maybe, maybe in this economy, yeah, in this economy, I know it's hard. I know it's not easy. And I completely understand that. I just also feel like a lot of people can and don't, and a lot of people that should
Yeah.
won't. Um, so I'm
Yep.
not really talking toward like about the people who really just can't. Like I get it. It's fine. Um, I feel like there are ways for you to try without therapy that you can easily Google, to be honest. Drink some water, I guess. Try sleeping.
um, yeah, I I also think like just taking an intentional break and focusing on your mental health and like writing stuff down, or I've even talked stuff out like in my voice app
Mhm.
before when writing feels too hard.
Another
I don't
thing, I
know.
feel like like I said, I have had conversations with friends before about being like, "Hey, this just isn't working right now. Where our headspaces are not fitting at the moment." I feel like communication, even if it's not like you don't have to cut somebody off. I'm not saying that's something you should do, but like communicating with a person who might be giving you fatigue is a good way to like acknowledge your own emotions and also deal with the problem. Because I think there's so many people out here, especially people who are like vulnerable to compassion fatigue, that are likely to just ignore their own emotions. And I don't think that's helpful.
Yeah, something that's been helpful for me that I've only started to do now, like in my adult years, is like being honest, like you said, with people and being like, you going through this, like, is really stressing me out and I'm really worried about you. Um, and usually I'll say something like, I'm not telling you this so you don't tell me or so you feel guilty. It's just like, I'm just being real about how I feel and I am really worried about you. And like, that has just really helped. Because I think sometimes it makes the people feel less
Yeah.
alone, you know, realizing the emotional impact of how they're feeling. Um, because growing up, I had sort of mental health parents, which is a good thing. But also, the downside was there was a level of like emotional detachment when I would say stuff to them. Not in like a bad way, just like a therapist way,
Yeah.
if
Psychic
that makes
numbing.
sense. Psychic numbing. So I would just be telling them things and like emotionally there was no reciprocation or acknowledgement.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So I think being honest with the people who are communicating with you about how they're feeling, being like, wow, this is really, I'm feeling, what you're feeling is making me feel this. It's so crazy how much we have to communicate about feelings all the time. It's honestly fucking
No,
annoying.
we've definitely said this on here before. We don't like our emotions. Our emotions piss us off. Everybody's mad at them. No one's happy about them. Our feelings
Yeah.
are valid but dumb. And I'll stand by that.
Yeah. Like 9 times out of 10, like my feelings might have little to nothing to do with reality, but I still have to take care of them, you know? My feelings are more tied up in like 7-year-old Sabrina's experiences than anything that's happening right now in this moment. And I still have to work through it. And it's like,
Can I
come
just have a
on,
break?
move on already.
Yeah. No, it's definitely annoying. Like it can be very exhausting to just kind of constantly be like worried about your emotions and everybody else's emotions. It's just like, wait, can't we all just stop feeling things? I don't know. If we only just like felt joy, the world would be also annoying now that I think about
Let's
it.
feel nothing.
Yeah.
Let's go back to feeling nothing. Let's huff some glue and just forget our feelings.
I love that glue is your huff of choice.
I have never partaken in huffing, so I just assume that
I think it's
glue is
usually
what people
paint.
get up to. Really? Okay, that's interesting. I'm a painter. I'll
All
try it
right.
out.
Please do.
Do
Let
you?
me know. Okay.
Uh.
So with all that being said, we probably should have done examples at the beginning of this, but that's whatever. Who cares? It's an unstructured episode. We do what we
It is
want.
what it is.
Um, but some examples, I feel like a lot of this is geared definitely like towards work rather than like just real life experiences. But some examples to kind of help you understand what we're talking about when speaking about compassion fatigue. Um, could be providing therapy that introduces you to extreme or severe issues, um, being physically or verbally threatened when providing care, being confronted with suicide or threats of suicide by someone under your care, providing care in dangerous environments, providing care to someone who experiences depression, um, specializing in providing care for those experiencing death, grief, and bereavement, experiencing or caring for someone who has experienced the illness or death of a child. I love that they specified child. I don't know. Loved one would have worked. It doesn't have to be a child. Just for everyone who's reading this along with us. I don't know. Um, providing care.
Yeah, the audience.
Yeah,
The live audience.
everyone who's listening out there right now. Providing care under a heavy workload, excessive demands, or long hours. Providing service that requires you to visit accident scenes, view graphic evidence, or deal with the evidence or reports of trauma are some examples. Most of them are at work, but also I feel like providing care doesn't have to necessarily be like a care provider. It could just be a friend, a parent, a whatever.
Mhm. Yeah. I, uh, I listened to this podcast called Small Town Dicks, and it's, you know
Just the name.
what?
I
You
don't
shaking
know
your
what I
head at me?
expected, but it wasn't that.
It's really it's a
Yeah.
comedic name for such a serious show, so I don't know why they do that. Uh, but a dick used to be, like, the name for a detective or an investigator,
Oh, okay.
a private dick. Yeah,
Interesting.
I that's what like, in the 30s and 40s, like, detectives were called
Well,
dicks.
they are.
I can't describe I can't give you any more information. But the premise of the podcast is they tell stories of investigations from the perspective of the people who either responded to it, were the call dispatcher, were the detective that investigated it. And um, they often get very like vulnerable about the mental health burden of being a first responder or investigating these very serious things. And they talk about how they know that they need to retire or quit when they stop caring. Um, when they see or witness something or are around something and they no longer feel empathy for the victim or empathy for the perpetrator in some cases.
Maybe.
And they're
Yeah.
like,
Let's take
okay,
a step back.
it's retiring time.
But I feel like that could happen way before
um,
like retirement
which
time,
is,
but also like just take a second to step back on some level.
yeah, from what I understand, like that career is not a career
Yeah.
that lets you take breaks necessarily. And often you retire, 10, 5 to 10 years into your career. It's not like there's not a lot of people who work major crimes
Fair.
or are first responders for 40 years um, because of the emotional toll. Um, but somebody's got to do it, I guess. It's
Yeah.
just,
Ain't gonna be me.
it ain't gonna be me. Not with my
I wouldn't
mental
pass the
health
psych eval.
fucking charcuterie board. Absolutely not. You go under like a stress test too, where you're like running and they make random loud noises. I'll start crying.
I can't. I'm imagining you like on a treadmill, just like looking back and forth. What's behind me? Just starts breaking down, falls off the treadmill.
Absolutely. I, I will get so paranoid. I'll be like, this is a trick. They're really trying to kill me right now. No fucking way I
That's
would
so
pass a
funny.
stress test.
Oh my god.
I'm stressed out right now and I'm in a perfectly safe room.
I
Like,
can't imagine.
it's crazy. I don't understand.
Oh, okay. I
Go
can't
ahead.
imagine like going under a stress test and they're like, "Hey, it doesn't seem like this." is like, you seem really stressed out and you're not supposed to be. And I'm like, that's just my natural state. No worries. Like, would they take that as an answer?
A stress test. No.
Like,
A stress test.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm stressed
That's
out. I
the whole
thought
fucking point.
I passed
You're
with
trying to
flying
test my
colors.
survival skills. Bet, bitch. I got you. I'll run out of this room.
Yeah. My problem is another reason I really couldn't do that type of work is I don't fight or flight.
No, I'm a freeze or fawn type of person. Like, I am not good because I'm afraid that, like, if I flight, somebody's gonna catch me. I'm not a fast runner. If I fight, I'm losing. I can't fight. So I either have to suck up or just pretend I'm not there.
Yeah.
Just dissociate.
If I'm by myself, I'll freeze. If I feel like someone else is at risk, I will fight.
Yeah, you do have
So that does make me feel a little better.
more fighting potential than I do. I don't at all. Like, I would die. If
Yeah, which is scary for me. I wish.
I really needed to, I'd do something, but like, I it's not gonna be my first like nervous system response, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And it's so crazy that some people are just wired differently, you know? Like some people are just
Yeah.
under stress and pressure fine. And then later they have the impact. I just
That's typically how I work.
yeah.
I usually like like, I'm fine whenever there's like a lot going on, but like, everybody talks about before the calm, but my problem is always after the like, no, the calm before the storm
Mm,
is always what people are stressed about, and mine is always the calm after the storm
yeah.
is like miserable for me. I hate that shit.
Yeah. I
Like,
will reflect on what I did and like replay it over and over and be like, how
hmm
can we do this better next time?
yeah, but I'll be fine during like a an event of some kind. I usually handle it pretty well. I'm just very quiet. I shut down my emotions. And then, I don't know, 5, 6 months later, I stub my toe and suddenly the world is crashing down. It's just how I function. I don't know.
Yeah. It's crazy the things that'll put me over the edge. I'll just be stressed out
No,
left and right, and then Jack will have moved something from its normal spot, and that's the end. And we're done.
I want to I want to create a notes app, like a note in my notes app of just like all the things that sent me into a down spiral. I think we should conduct a study.
And see what it is. Yeah. Uh,
My sweater got caught in the door handle.
there was no mayonnaise left for my sandwich.
We're having a great time out here.
Yeah, we're broken people having a great time. Well, I think we covered compassion fatigue and 10 other things. So,
Yeah, sure did.
sure did. If you guys want to stay in touch with us, we are all over the place. We're everywhere. We're in your house, we're in your attic, we're in your walls, and also we're on social media. We got TikTok, Instagram, Threads, and Reddit, and a Gmail account that you can send nice things to us. It doesn't
Yeah.
accept mean things, only nice things.
Or fake things. Don't send us AI.
That was amazing. I know that it upset you, but for me, I had a moment of like, I'm well known enough to get scammed by AI. I had a moment of delusional, we're famous.
No, you really did. You texted me and you were like, look at this. And I was like, okay. You're like, we got an email. We're like,
Fame.
sure did.
Attention
um,
hungry.
no, but our Instagram, our Threads, and our TikTok and Gmail are all at Trauma and Triggers. And then our Reddit is at Trauma and Triggers Pod.
Yeah. Um, and we're hilarious and wonderful on there, so you should stay in touch with us. Um, if you don't, I will cry. And
We can't keep threatening the audience, Sabrina.
it's how
They can
I
only
show
take so
love.
much.
It's how I show love. They're gonna take it and they're gonna like it. Okay.
You have no choice.
Yeah, you can't click off this podcast. I think it's interesting. I always say click, even though everybody listens to podcasts on their phone. Nobody is on their MacBook Pro listening to a
Yeah,
podcast.
it's true.
Um, well, I don't have anything else to say to you.
No.
I guess the only thing left to say is goodbye.
Goodbye.